still could, but I don't want to like take up too much of the conversation now. Okay, we were talking about before, you were saying God loves sinners. And I wanted to bring up Hibernate Renmei. You guys know that show? Who knows that show? You guys remember the scene in the well? Well, Raka goes in the well and she realizes at some point that the dead bird represents, in the world of the Hibernate, the birds, crows are the only things that can fly over the wall back and forth. And she realizes she's done something very bad in the past and she's hurt people. And she says, to the bird, you came here, you flew over the wall, and you came with me from whatever world I came from to come to this world, to show me that I wasn't alone, and to show me that whatever I did, that you've forgiven me for it, and you won't leave me. And that's what changes her. That's how she becomes whole, because she's sick. She's sin-bound. That's how she becomes whole, by realizing that this bird represented someone who loved her that much that they would change their form and go to where she was to show her that. That's who Jesus is. And that's how much he loves sinners. And that's exactly what he did. That part is the only part of the show that I kind of stepped back a minute and it made me cry. Because that's not why I cried in the scene, but when I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Jesus. That's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. He came to our world and became one of us so that he could say, I love you that much, and I want to be with you that much. So I just had to bring that up.
I'm glad you did. That kind of goes exactly to one of the earlier things that we talked about, where themes and ideas are universal. And even if people a lot of times that make shows don't even realize what they're doing, they're expressing these concepts that are very deep within everyone. And you recognize it when you see it. You recognize it when you hear it. Yes?
Okay, this is going to be another kind of opinion question, but I'm referencing back to when we were talking about the comparison of Ishbal, comparing the Ishbal and their belief in one God, along with the state army, and basically that's representing, I guess you could say, science. I kind of want to know what's your take on, I guess you could kind of say, the battle between Christianity and science. Ooh.
That sounds like a whole different panel. You know what, guys? I want you to know something. I don't speak out of ignorance about this. I've always been very fascinated with science, and I've studied an awful lot of this. I've studied creationism versus evolutionism, and I've studied origins and the DNA stuff and the fossil record and you know, all this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you what I think. All right? Let's talk science for a minute. You guys ready? I know it's early Sunday morning. Put your thinking caps on. Science. All right? Not Bible. Science. Evolution is called the theory of evolution. Right? You know what theory is?
Yes.
It's an educated guess, basically. This is what we think may have happened. What's bigger and stronger than a theory? Law. A law. Do you know what the first and second laws of thermodynamics say? The first law of thermodynamics states, and I quote, "Energy can neither be created nor destroyed." Well, that kind of blows the idea of a Big Bang away, doesn't it? That it just, boom, there it was. Just happened. This is the one that really gets me. The second law of thermodynamics. You ready for this one? I love this. I love this stuff. Because it's not about Christianity. It's scientific. Using science to prove themselves crazy. Second law of thermodynamics says, and I quote, "Everything in the universe left to itself moves from a state of order to disorder." That's exactly the opposite of evolution, isn't it? Evolution says everything was left alone, and it just kept getting better. And here we are. Isn't that what it says? No God, no outside influence, everything just was left alone, and over time it just kept getting better. Isn't that what, am I right or wrong? Isn't that the theory of evolution? It violates the law of thermodynamics. That everything, you leave a building alone, what does it do? Crumbles and falls apart. You leave a human being alone, what do? They shrivel up and die. Am I right or wrong? There's so many things. We could do a whole panel on this, and I know this is not the place for it. But I've studied this stuff, you guys. I've studied origins. I've studied DNA. I've studied, oh my gosh, fossil record. Want to talk about the fossil record for a second? The fossil record is basically our biggest tie to the past, right? I mean, you find out animals that lived, people that lived, all that. I've studied this a lot, you guys. Evolution says, given enough time, and I know a lot of you are not that old, but when they started the theory of evolution, they asserted that the Earth was probably 100 million years old. Nobody can even think in terms that big, but they just threw that number out because they figured given 100 million years, it could happen. If you just keep doing it enough, it could happen, right? In the 10 years or so since, now they say it's billions of years old. Because the more they calculate, the more they realize that it couldn't have even happened in 100 million years. So we better make it a billion. You know, let's make it a cool 2 billion. They just keep changing it. Because they understand themselves that the odds of it happening are none. You know what? A statistician once did a calculation. They said that the odds of an explosion that would create a perfectly mathematical solar system like we have. Did you guys know that if the Earth was a fraction closer to the sun, it would be able to support life? Did you know that if it were a fraction further away, it would be able to support life? That we set clocks, you guys, by the rotations of the... It's mathematically amazing. The odds of an explosion that would make that happen are the same as the odds of an explosion in a junkyard, all the junk going up and coming down and forming a fully functional 747. That is the precision of our universe, and we can't touch it. We try, but we can't. Now,